You know, I was just thinking about that in the studio before I came down here, and I think the first time I met Sid was at a Saturday morning art class.
Picture this. A smoky studio, dim lights, and Roger Waters sitting in silence, arms crossed, eyes full of fire. He's not here to reminisce. He's here to call out betrayal. 5 bands. 5 names. Not just bands he dislikes, but ones he believes betrayed everything rock was supposed to stand for. Waters didn't build Pink Floyd to make background music. He made anthems that screamed against war, greed, and control. His songs were protest, not product. Now he watches as the charts fill with safe sounds, clean lyrics, and stadium shows that mean nothing. These bands, they're not dangerous. They're polished, packaged. And to Waters, that's the real crime. This isn't hate for headlines. It's disappointment from a man who gave everything to a genre and watched others sell it back, watered down, gift-wrapped, and empty. These are the 5 bands Roger Waters just can't stand. U2, from praise to disgust. It didn't start with hate. At first, Roger Waters respected U2. In the early 80s, they looked like the next generation of political rock. Big messages, huge crowds, a sense of purpose. But the more Waters watched, the more he saw something fake. He didn't hear danger in their music. He heard polish. To him, Bono's onstage speeches felt more like performances than protests. He once said U2's music was overproduced and safe, the kind of thing that made people feel good, not think hard. But what really got to him? People comparing the Joshua Tree to The Wall. That was the final straw. The Wall was a raw scream, personal, painful, angry. To Waters, the Joshua Tree was just a commercial with guitars. He went to a U2 concert once in London. During one of Bono's long speeches about saving the world, Waters stood up, shook his head, and walked out. "It's all smoke and no fire," he muttered. That's where admiration turned into full-on contempt. Because to Roger Waters, rock isn't supposed to be a feel-good show. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable, push you, change something. And to him, U2 just played it safe, and that was unforgivable. The Rolling Stones, from rebels to a brand. There was a time Roger Waters loved the Stones. In the 60s, who didn't? They were wild, dangerous, and raw, blues with a snarl. But somewhere along the way, something changed. The danger faded. The rebellion got traded in for routine. To Waters, the Stones stopped being rebels and started being a business. Massive tours, flashy stage lights, merch everywhere, you name it. He felt like the message got lost in the money. The fire turned into a formula. What once felt like chaos now felt like a commercial. And it wasn't just the music. Waters said their later albums sounded like echoes of past glory. No edge, no risk, just a comfortable nod to what they used to be. Things got tense off stage too. At a European festival in the 90s, Waters reportedly clashed with members of the Stones' crew over sound checks and stage time. One tour manager even said Waters was too political for the crowd. That comment stuck with him. After that, Waters kept his distance. Invitations were ignored. Snide remarks slipped into interviews. When asked if he'd ever share a stage with them, his answer was sharp. He wasn't interested in joining a circus. He wanted to spark a revolution. To him, the Stones had the power to challenge the world. But they chose comfort. And that, more than anything, was the disappointment he couldn't forgive. Coldplay, too clean, too safe. If there's one band that really gets under Roger Waters' skin, it's Coldplay. Not because they're bad musicians, but because, to him, they represent everything that's gone wrong with modern rock. Music that sounds nice but says nothing. Waters has called their sound sterile, safe, and emotionally flat. Coldplay's songs, with their dreamy melodies and pastel visuals, feel more like background music to a tech commercial than a call to action. He doesn't hear urgency or truth, just something soft and pleasant, built not to offend. It's not their success that bothers him. It's what they do with it. While the world burns, wars, corruption, climate crisis, Coldplay floats above it all, never naming names, never digging in. Their music, Waters says, makes people feel better about ignoring what matters. To him, that's not just lazy, it's dangerous. Coldplay became the soundtrack to shopping malls and corporate ads. not protest marches or revolutions. And for someone like Waters, who believes music should stir the soul and shake the system, that's the worst kind of betrayal. Their songs may bring people together, but Waters hears apathy in the unity, comfort where there should be confrontation. He doesn't just dislike their music, he rejects the silence it creates. Because for him, music should be more than beautiful. It should mean something. Muse all flash, no fire. Muse has the sound, the lights, the drama. But for Roger Waters, that's exactly the problem. To him, they're all spectacle and no substance. At first glance, Muse might look like they're carrying the torch of revolutionary rock. Huge soundscapes, big themes, dystopian lyrics. It's the kind of package Waters helped invent with Pink Floyd. But when he listened closer, he didn't hear truth. He heard mimicry. Waters felt they were copying the surface, without understanding the soul. He once said Muse felt calculated, like they were imitating rebellion instead of living it. All the noise, but none of the scars. Their lyrics hinted at resistance, but never committed. Their shows dazzled, but their message felt empty. Behind the scenes, there was tension too. At a charity event where both were scheduled to perform, Waters reportedly questioned why Muse was headlining. He didn't think they'd earned it. He saw their music as hollow, their stage show as a distraction from the fact they weren't really saying anything. To him, Muse represented a generation more focused on looking like rebels than actually being them. He didn't mind being admired, but to be imitated without depth? That was worse than being ignored. For Waters, rebellion is more than a vibe, it's a wound. Muse, in his eyes, just played dress-up with the idea. Imagine Dragons, the final straw. When Roger Waters was asked about Imagine Dragons, he didn't hold back. He laughed, and not in a friendly way. "Are we really calling this rock?" he said, shaking his head like he'd just been insulted. To him, Imagine Dragons aren't a band. They're a product. Loud, shiny, mass-produced. Their music? Fast food for the ears. Catchy, yes, but empty. Built for algorithms, halftime shows, and commercials, not for meaning or movement. Waters believes they pretend to be powerful. Big choruses, booming drums, lyrics that sound deep, but don't actually say anything. He sees them as the face of commercialized rebellion. Music that looks edgy but plays it safe. That shouts without purpose. That fills stadiums, but leaves nothing behind. What really angered him was how they managed to stand for nothing, and still be everywhere. While the world faces war, inequality, and crisis, Imagine Dragons sings feel-good anthems that avoid it all. Waters doesn't hear inspiration. He hears denial set to a drumbeat. "There's nothing worse," he once said, "than packaging noise as revolution." He didn't just dislike their songs. He loathed what they symbolized. The death of protest in rock. A sound that comforts, not confronts. To Waters, Imagine Dragons isn't just forgettable. They're part of the problem. Glossy, safe, and loud for all the wrong reasons. Roger Waters didn't build his legacy on pretty melodies or flashy shows. He built it on resistance. His music was never about just sounding good. It was about saying something, screaming something, shaking something. And what he sees in today's music world breaks his heart more than it angers him. The bands he's called out, U2, the Rolling Stones, Coldplay, Muse, Imagine Dragons, and even The Weeknd. They're not on this list because they're talentless. They're on it because, to him, they had power and chose not to use it. They had the audience, the platform, the spotlight, and instead of lighting a fire, they dimmed the lights and played along. What Waters sees isn't just bad music. It's a betrayal of everything he believes rock was meant to be. He remembers when albums were banned for saying too much, when lyrics got you arrested, when a band could start a movement, not a marketing campaign. He sees the difference between music made to wake people up and music made to sell earbuds. To him, Coldplay's soft optimism, Muse's stylized rebellion, Imagine Dragons' algorithm-friendly anthems, it all blends together into one big, hollow sound. Safe, smooth, marketable, and meaningless. Even legends like the Rolling Stones, who once lived on the edge, now feel more like a logo than a voice. Waters doesn't hate success. He hates when success comes at the cost of soul. And when it comes to U2, what started as admiration turned into the deepest kind of disappointment. The kind you only feel when someone you believed in chooses showmanship over substance. And then there are artists like The Weeknd. Waters didn't even pretend to be curious. Because to him, fame today isn't earned through bold ideas. It's handed out through streams, trends, and algorithms. Music isn't dangerous anymore. It's decor. But Waters never wanted to decorate the world. He wanted to set it on fire. That's why he speaks with such venom. Not because he enjoys tearing people down, but because he believes music matters too much to be this quiet. Because when art becomes safe, society stays broken. And when rock stops screaming, the world forgets how to listen. In his mind, a true artist should be willing to bleed, to risk, to be hated. Because if your song isn't brave enough to upset someone, it's probably not saying anything worth hearing. So when Roger Waters calls out these names, it's not about drama. It's about loss. The loss of meaning. The loss of urgency. The loss of a genre that once stood for something. And the hope that maybe, just maybe, it still can. Because the world doesn't need more background music. It needs a soundtrack for rebellion.